We got a big holiday Eastern Conference final special on the latest episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, and the two best teams in the Eastern Conference are going toe-to-toe. Steele and I have our previews, X-factors, and series bets ready to roll. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to tighten it up for the rest of the episode because the Eastern Conference final is upon us. And me, oh my friends, the Rangers and Florida Panthers are the two best teams in the East, and we're excited to break it all down for you on the latest episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get 150 bones in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Steele, it was a little sloppy off the top there, but this hockey in this series is going to be nothing close to sloppy. I am so fired up for this series. I'm intrigued for your takes on it. You and I haven't talked a whole lot about what we think is going to go down. I think there are a couple of clear angles in this series that you and I are going to talk about. We got our X-factors, series best bets, and of course, who we think wins and in how many games. Steele, I actually have a couple of series best bets, so I'm excited to get there. Look, what do you think about this series? Because I think we're in for a real treat, number one, and I think these New York Rangers are going to need to step up their physicality because the Florida Panthers play a very rough and tumble brand of hockey, Steele, and that's one of those angles that I'm looking at in this series.
Look, I think these are the two toughest teams in the NHL right now. And obviously the two best teams in the Eastern Conference. You got the Florida Panthers going back to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second year in a row. And you've got the New York Rangers going back to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second time in 3 years. So both teams are absolutely killing, both teams are absolutely killing it right now. Both teams are, they're right there. And last year, the Florida Panthers getting to the Stanley Cup Finals. So we know they're going to be one of the hottest teams over the next 5 to 10 years, just from their players they've got right now. And that includes the New York Rangers. So we've got the two best teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I think the New York Rangers, to me, I've been on them the entire season about being the best team physically, one of the best teams offensively, having one of the most structured blue lines as well in the NHL right now. So I'm really looking forward to this matchup. I'm really looking forward to see what the New York Rangers can do if they can finally get it done and get into the Stanley Cup Finals and await whoever comes up on top in the Western Conference Finals, which, by the way, we will break down the Western Conference Finals, X-factors, predictions, best bets in tomorrow's episode once we know who will be in the Western Conference Finals. But yeah, I couldn't be more excited. So I want Wednesday to come right now as soon as possible so I can get down and start watching some of the best hockey ever.
Wednesday night, Madison Square Garden, Rangers-Panthers game 1. The Panthers had 2,300 and change hits this year, Steele, collaboratively as a team. That led the NHL. They were the most physical team. The Rangers, somewhere I think down in like the 10th spot. So they also throw their body around, but that's my X factor. I'll get right to it. For this New York Rangers team, I'm looking at Trouba, Keandre Miller, Cooley. They're hit leaders. They're guys who throw the body. That's my X factor, is the Rangers' ability to go toe-to-toe with the Panthers, because we know they're going to try and come in there and set that physical tone. So the X factor for me is the grinders on this team for the Rangers, the Trubas of the world who can impose their physical will. This series is going to be an absolute beauty, Steele. It has all the makings of a 7-game battle. I don't think you and I are going to disagree on this one. Maybe going the complete distance. That's what it has written all over it. So I'll spit out my X factor one more time. Cooley, Trouba, Keandre Miller. Those were the 3 hit leaders for the Rangers this season. I'm looking at those guys. They've got to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Sam Bennett's and Kachucks of the world, who they're coming in. They're put a little bee in the bonnet. So I'm going physicality for the Rangers. That's my X factor for them.
Absolutely love this take. Absolutely love the X factor, because I was going with Jacob Trouba as well. He was going to be my X factor, but I'm going to group the entire blue line of the New York Rangers as my X factor for multiple reasons. Number one, you explained it yourself. The physicality, has to match the Florida Panthers at all times. And I believe, again, like I said, they are one of the biggest and baddest teams in the NHL, especially
Two
not just
really
on the blue line.
well-coached teams as well, Steele.
Very
Laviolette and Paul
well-coached.
Maurice, holy.
Yeah, very well coached. But, like I was saying, they are one of the biggest and baddest teams in the NHL right now, obviously alongside. So they got to keep up with the Florida Panthers physicality. Yep. It's not just on the blue line. It's also up front. You got Vinny Trocheck, who's a dog himself.
Yeah, that's
if they get Matt Rempe into the lineup, he's going to be throwing his weight around. Sure. Vincent Trocheck, like I said, Chris Kreider's not afraid to get down and dirty when he has to. So they've got it on the blue line. They need to match the physicality at all times. So Jacob Trouba, like you said, Keandre Miller, Gustafsson, all those guys, they got to do a great job. And we know Trouba's going to bring that hit factor as well. But on top of that, they need to be as sound and as steady in front of Igor Shesterkin in their defensive zone. Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart, Matthew Tkachuk. They're going to be going to the dirty area of the blue crease, banging away at pucks. They need to protect Igor Shesterkin at all times. Box out, clear any mess in front of Igor Shesterkin. That's the job of the blue line for the New York Rangers. Bring the physicality on a nightly basis, match the intensity, and you got to box out in front of your goaltender. Do not let anybody get to Igor Shesterkin.
Couldn't agree with you more, Steele. Look, at the end of the day, the Rangers are going to have to put on a show. They went through the Canes, right? Great team. They went through the Caps, though, with ease. This is a whole different beast. So when I was looking at all these notes, and I agree with all the angles we've already covered, for me, it comes down to, is this the Rangers' year, right? They've fallen short before. You mentioned it. 2 out of 3 seasons, past 3 seasons, almost getting there. Are they going to be able to go through a quality team in the Florida Panthers that we know is already Stanley Cup worthy? They were there last year, and they're knocking on the door once again. So for me, will they be able to do that? We got more X-factors, best bets, and who we think and how many games is taking this coming up right around the break. Eastern Conference final preview. Steele said it. Western Conference tomorrow. However, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. Get in the game right now at FanDuel. Winner take all time in the NBA and in the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets. With any winning $5 bet, that's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and a whole lot more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com today.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. Make sure you also go check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. You can also find it on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel and find it on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Flip, before I hand it back over to you, yes, I need to continue with my X Factor on the New York Rangers about the blue line, because I actually have another point that I just remembered. Yep. It's not just about the physicality. It's not just about protecting Igor Shesterkin. The blue line on the New York Rangers has to do a better job of helping the offensive production as well. We know that, Vinny Trocheck, Chris Kreider, Zibanejad, they've all done a great job offensively. But when you're seeing what the Florida Panthers blue line is doing, especially from Brandon Montour and Gustav Forsling. By the way, Forsling is one of the most underrated defensemen in the NHL right now.
Thank you.
Great deal from Bill Zito. They need to do a better job, because Brandon Montour has 8 points. Gustav Forsling has 7 points. Even Aaron Ekblad has 4 or 5 points. Right now, Adam Fox has only 4 assists, 0 goals. Jacob Trouba has 1 goal, 3 assists. Keandre Miller, less than that. They need to do a better job of helping their forward group right now in the offensive zone, and really quarterbacking on the blue line when they're in 5-on-5 or power play. So again, that just adds another triple entendre about the X factor for the blue line for the New York Rangers. Physicality, protect Igor Shesterkin, and get into the offensive side of things when possible.
Wow. First and foremost, yes, I agree. Second of all, that is the most perfect segue into my X factor for the Florida Panthers. I mentioned the physicality. I mentioned the guy, we've already talked about matching that. That's a clear angle. For me, it's the O from the D for the Panthers right here on my notepad, Steele. You mentioned it, though. The Montours of the world, even Ekblad chipping in here. Forsling, big-timely goals. If they can continue to do that, it's going to be really hard for this Rangers team to go toe-to-toe, because that's the second point for that one. And you just mentioned it. The Rangers blue line hasn't been able to do it yet. Can they still? Do I still believe in the Adam Foxes of the world? 100%. And that's why I'm very excited to see who comes out of this one, Steele. I'm excited for your preview. I'm excited for best bets. Let me just wrap it up at this, because I had a little thought about Sergei Bobrovsky, and I think I mentioned it to you last week or the week before. I don't think he's really been tested very much. And then you look into how many shots he's been facing, just a couple of games against Boston. 18 shots, 17 shots, 15 shots on net. And a couple of those games, he's rocking save percentages below 900. That's just not going to be good enough going up against a New York Rangers team that I'm expecting a very big series from Mika Zibanejad. I think he is going to be doing what he does best, and that's making his teammates and line mates around him even better. I think Mika Zibanejad is in line to take his game to the next level and really silence some haters, Steele, because I think he doesn't get nearly enough credit for how good he is. But a part of that is, as the captain, as the New York Rangers, or one of the leaders in that locker room, you got to get it done. And now he's got that opportunity. Anyway, that's a bit of the tease to the series best bets. I just wanted to bring up Sergei Bobrovsky has a lot of miles on that body, Steele. The Florida Panthers as well. Is that going to catch up to them in this series? Because I think Bob hasn't really been tested. And last year he stood on his head. So I just wanted to bring up this angle that Sergei Bobrovsky, if I'm a Florida Panthers fan, we haven't really seen the best of him yet. Can he do it? For sure. But that's one of those little question marks I had written down here in my notes.
Yeah, and I think it goes hand in hand with what you just said. He hasn't been tested enough this postseason like he was last year. So, I think when push comes to shove, he's going to be on the top of his game. He's going to have to be, because his team has really brought him up in this postseason so far. Exactly like you said, he hasn't been tested as much as we saw last year on that incredible run from the Florida Panthers. And that just brings me to my X factor, and it's exactly the opposite of what I said from the New York Rangers. Matthew Tkachuk and Sam Reinhart and Sam Bennett, they're going to be getting dirty and nasty in front of the crease. They got to make it super uncomfortable for Igor Shesterkin. You got to get under the skin of Igor Shesterkin, Jacob Trouba, make them take penalties when possible. I know the Florida Panthers are actually one of the worst penalized teams so far in the playoffs. The Rangers have actually been pretty good so far without not taking unnecessary penalties when needed. That's going to be my X factors. Those three guys right there, Sam Bennett, Sam Reinhart, and Matthew Tkachuk, because those three guys go to the front of the net. They go into the blue paint more than anybody on that Florida Panthers team. And it's really just to antagonize. It's really just to get under the skin, make it uncomfortable, and maybe draw a penalty at the same time from the blue line and get a power play. And, we know that they have a very strong power play. Carter Verhaeghe, of course, Sam Reinhart killed it in the regular season. So I'm going back to those three guys, top guys who I've mentioned before in the last two series for the Panthers.
I agree. I also speaking of the power play, the Florida Panthers power play in the postseason has actually not been super good. 22% when you look at the Rangers, up at 31%. So you and I have talked a lot about special teams. Everyone
22% is pretty average.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's like the same old song and dance for me. Who is going to be able to capitalize on these chances? This is just what happens in the playoffs. However, I actually had a very tough time picking a winner in this series, Steele. I know we'll talk about that right after the break. I just really do think there's one of my bets, I'll just say it right now, is this series goes 7 games. So I would be wagering on that one for sure.
Well, let's do our best bets now.
Okay, giddy up. That would be one of them. This series goes 7 games. I had the FanDuel odds up before, but everything crashed on me, Steele, and things just went haywire. But I alluded to Mika Zibanejad, series point leader, plus 950. You're getting a really good price for Mika Zibanejad to be the series point leader. Hey, if he only gets assists in this series, and I think that's how he's going to really make this team click, is distributing. Sure, I'd love to see him bury a couple too. But at plus 950, Steele, if you're going to read into the angles that I'm reading into, look, this season series, 2 wins, 1 loss for the Florida Panthers. So it was pretty even. They had the number 1 goals against in the regular season, the Florida Panthers. And what is it here? 2.41. If Bob can do his thing, that's not going to go well for my Mika Zibanejad and a point leader. But at plus 950, Steele, I'm feeling a very big series from Mika Zibanejad.
Yeah, and especially from those top guys, Zibanejad, Panarin, they're going to need to be at their best because honestly, it's been Vinny Trocheck and it's been Chris Kreider who have been dominating, of course, obviously in that last playoff series, but they've been so good. Zibanejad 14 points, Panarin's been getting his as well. Vinny Trocheck, Chris Kreider leads the team with 7 goals this postseason. which will bring me to my best bets and actually big time bets for the end of the episode. My best bet for this series, I got 2 New York Rangers to win the series 4-3 at plus 450.
Oh, so you're loving my Game 7 prediction.
Oh yeah, I love the Game 7 prediction. I'm picking the winner because I've been picking the winner. I've already picked them for my NHL bracket as the Stanley Cup champion. So New York Rangers 4-3 plus 450, and my second best bet, Vincent Trocheck 3+ goals in this series at plus 240. I think he's going to get his own. We've already seen him get it at times. Obviously alongside Chris Kreider as well, but those 2 guys have been dominating in the offensive zone. They are the first and second goal leaders for the New York Rangers. And I just think Vincent Trocheck's going to be a huge, again, he could have been an X factor for me, but I went with the blue line. But I think Vincent Trocheck's going to be an X factor. He has been one of the most underrated and, just like what he's been able to do since coming in. And it was funny enough when he's
filling out the stat sheet too, and winning faceoffs at a very good clip.
He's doing everything. And it was really funny because when Vincent Trocheck first signed with the New York Rangers, I did not like the contract by any means. I thought he was overpaid. I thought it was a long-term
now
contract.
He's looking like he's underpaid.
Now he's looking like he's underpaid for sure. So those are my best bets. New York Rangers to win this series 4-3 at plus 450. And Vincent Trocheck 3+ goals in this series at plus 240. Flip, do you have big time bets? I know where this episode is being released for Tuesday. I got a same game parlay for Wednesday's game. So I can just get to it after the break.
Yeah, get to it after the break. I'll bring up that odd though very quickly. 7 games, series to go 7 games plus 198. But let's come back from the break. We'll spread out our predictions, and I got one more pick, one more best bet for this series. I think you're going to like it.
Absolutely love it. We'll come back after the break, finish our best bets, and then get to big time bets for Wednesday's Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. But first, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to subscribe, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all the love, all the support you show us Monday through Friday. So thank you so much for tuning in and staying with us through the postseason, going into the offseason. We got so much content. We got so much ideas coming your way this summer. It's going to be a great summer, 2024. Let's get into it, though. Continuing the conversation. Flip back over to you, my friend. Second best bet of this series.
Well, I can't back off of Mika Zibanejad now. So 2+ goals from Mika Zibanejad at minus 150 Steele, I think is a very, very fair price. And look, you and I talked all about, I think, all of the main angles that most people are already talking about at this time of year. That's how these teams got here. This isn't reinventing the wheel and coming up with hot takes. These teams are built for the Stanley Cup, and they play a specific style, and we got to talk about it. Mika Zibanejad is in a huge part of that offense, their power play. If the Florida Panthers take a couple of bad penalties, Mika Zibanejad is going to make them pay. Minus 150, 2+ goals. I also love him for the series points leader at plus 950. I think those are all very juicy odds. And I struggled with this one, Steele. I'll just go right into it with who I think is winning this bad boy, because the Florida Panthers deserve so much credit. And when I look at Paul Maurice and what he's been able to get out of this lineup, it scares me that I'm going with the Rangers in 7. That's my pick. Rangers in 7. You and I were on them early. I think we both agreed that they were going to be the Eastern Conference champion. I think maybe I disagreed with you. I think my pick was Dallas Stars over the Rangers in the final. So I'm going to stick with my Stars, and I know you're sticking with the Rangers. I'm scared, though, Steele, because this Florida Panthers team is dangerous. They are really good. And when they get the offense from the defense, like you and I talked about earlier on today's show, they're really, really hard to beat. Can the Rangers do it? 100%. Is this going 7 games? I also want to say 100%, but I'll spit it out. Rangers in 7. I think this one's going to go back and forth. I really don't see a team getting out to a 3-1 or a 3-0 lead. I think it's going to go back and forth. Rangers in 7. There, I said it.
Look, I already said my prediction. I already said Rangers win this series 4-3 at plus 450. So that's my prediction right there. I'm with you. Rangers in 7 is my prediction. And look, I'm not going to take any credit away from this Florida Panthers team because they deserve all the credit. A lot of the credit should go right towards Paul Maurice because he has coached this team into one of the best stallions in the NHL right now. They are an absolute juggernaut, a force to be reckoned with, and a lot of credit deserves to go to Paul Maurice for his coaching and getting his players into the game, being intense at all times and not lacking at any time. So a lot goes to Paul Maurice, obviously the players themselves, but I got to continue with the Rangers. And look, as much as I know the Florida Panthers are a dangerous team, a very physical team, I know the Rangers can match up easily, if not better at times. So I think again, these are the two best teams in the Eastern Conference Finals for a reason. You have the best team in the NHL just at the end of the regular season with the New York Rangers, and then the Florida Panthers, who dominated in the regular season as well, dominated the postseason. So best two teams. Let's get over to big time bets. I got a same game parlay. I'm just going to rapid fire all three. First pick of the game, Chris Kreider, anytime goal at plus 210. He leads the New York, juicy odd. Chris Kreider, anytime goal at plus 210. He leads the New York Rangers with 7 goals in this postseason so far. He continues to break history in the New York Rangers organization, playoff history, and so on. So Chris Kreider, first pick, anytime goal. Second pick, this one I struggled with, and I'm still sort of struggling with. I actually might tee it down to over 4.5, but I'm going with the over 5.5 at minus 102 in game one. I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think we're going to see a lot of penalties. I think we're going to see a lot of power plays. I think we're going to see a lot of physicality, and there's going to be a lot of chances. And again, if maybe the goalies come out and they prove me wrong, but I'm going to go with the over 5.5 at minus 102. I think both teams are going to get their chances, especially on the power play.
I could see it.
And my lock of the night, Rangers on the money line minus.
Might as well.
I'm going with the Rangers. I'm taking the Rangers in game one.
I also like this one, Steele. I have one pick for you because I didn't know what was going on here, but I had a little look. Will there be overtime at plus 340?
I saw that.
I think there's going to be a lot of very close games and actually more than 1 or 2 overtimes. So why not game one? Plus 340 for will there be overtime? That's juicy. I think this one has all the makings of going to OT, maybe more than once or twice in this series. So why not jump on it? And at plus 340, I'm loving those odds. And I like the Rangers too, so maybe put that together. Bang, bang.
Bang, bang. You got to take the Rangers on the money line. I'm taking the Rangers on the money line. By the way, those 3 picks in mind, you put them in a parlay together, it gets up to plus 589. You put $10 on there. Shout out to FanDuel. They got the greatest same game parlay formats out there. The parlay builders. We absolutely love FanDuel. We absolutely love you all out there tuning in for our episodes. Flip, you got any more picks or those
That's
are
it, brother?
picks?
I'm ready to ride for Wednesday and the Western Conference preview.
Western Conference preview coming on next episode. Make sure you're tuning in for that. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Once again, make sure you go check out Locked On Sports today. They are the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Go subscribe to them. They're here for you 24/7, bringing you the hottest stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering every single league. Again, you can also find it on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with your bets out there tonight, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.